Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, DotNet-Dev-Journey with Jacob. And today I'm going to be looking at the issue, a bug that I detected in my code in the day 7 video that I made. If you would remember, um, I was trying to create a new customer and then I entered the customer email. I entered the wrong, like a bad email, but to my surprise, the system accepted the email, which is not supposed to be, even despite my implementation of the inbuilt mail class library provided by .NET, but yet I still detected an error. It still took in a bad email because as you can see here, you see this is the inbuilt mail library, class library that .NET provided, and here it is. Okay, right? Okay, so let's get it up. Get email string, and as you can see, here is the code that helps to that's receives the user input for email. And here it validates it by ensuring that the string is not null or white space and that it is syntactically correct with the mail address implementation of the inbuilt.NET mail class library. But let's run the program again so that you can understand what I mean. And then in this video, we are going to look at how to resolve this issue or if there are alternative ways of doing it. So let's run the code so that we can understand what I meant by the error that was encountered or that was observed. So we are creating a new account and it's asking for last name. So we are saying Joel and Jamie Fox. This is just an example. So we're doing 1999 and 12. And we say jamie.com. And as you can see, it's allowing it to go through instead of, prompting the user to enter a valid email. You understand what I'm trying to say? This is a bug, it's an error, and we need to fix this. So let's go into the code proper and see where this error is coming from. So let's go to the create user create customer class. So here is the string email. User input get user input string. Oh, it's supposed to be email string, not input string. Email string. Okay. Let's run it again and see if we will encounter the same error. A string is just an ordinary, text alphabet. So I didn't have the email validation code to the normal input string. So I guess that was why we're having the error. So let's try again. Joel. We have Joel. So the other name, let's say we have Jamie Fox. And we have 1999. We use 1012 the other time. Then jamie.com. Let's see if that will work. Okay, it's showing an exception and it's saying the specified string is not in the form required for an email address. Oh, this is not supposed to throw an exception here. So we need to fix this. And how do we do that? I think we should be able to do something like this. Mail address dot try create. Don't know if this is going to work, but let's see if it will. Try create, okay, string address. Okay, let's say email, then house, mail address, email address. I hope represent the address of actually emails and our recipients. Converting non-literal possible null value to non-label type. Non-literal. Okay. I understand why he's saying this. Because this could possibly be an empty string. That's why we're having this. Is there anything that can be done to this? Let's see. There's really nothing much. So let's say email address. So this will not be string anymore. This should be email address. Should be mail address. So we are returning email address. Email address. But instead of using this here, I wanted it to be okay to do something like this. Let's just try it out so that I'm trying to avoid repetition as much as possible. So I'm saying this mail address. So I'm just saying out email and return email. So let's comment this out and see. Email may be null here. Email may be null here. Okay, let's just run this and see what's the address. So address. Then is that email address? This should be email address. So it's going to affect a lot of things. Update mail address. So we're going to customer profile service. That is application So we are changing even the domain. I think it's going to affect the domain as well, because you have to go into this place and make this the mail address. Then I will give mail address. Address. What to call this? So if mail address, email, oh, oh, delete. If not, if email is not mail address, okay, if email it can't be string, so I don't want to say string. Okay, let's see. If string dot null or empty, oh, I doubt if this will work because it's an email, it's not a string. Email dot address. Okay, okay. I think this works. If string dot is null or empty, okay, yeah. So we are changing this to not string anymore. It's going to be email. That's mail address. So let's change this as well. If string is null or empty, this is a mail address, not string anymore. New mail address dot address. Yes, so I think we fixed that part. So we come back here, mail address. So we're going to customer profile, which is in service. So here you need to change something. We are saying mail address. Yes. one more thing. I customer profile. So we are going to I customer profile. That should be in the infrastructure. I customer profile. Then we are changing this to mail address. Let's see if this resolves the issue. It does. So any other error is gone. So let's try to run our code again and see what we will have. Okay, another error. Oh, that is because uh, we've been dealing with string before, but now, so we need to go to where our data is saved. Uh, that should be data. Okay, so we have it there. So I want to delete all this. Yeah. So we are starting the program again. So Joel, Jamie, Fox, 1999, 10, 12, and Jamie. That's you can see invalid entry, try again. So let's say Jamie Fox at yahoo.com. Good. So we have a savings account. Simple. So now let's do a transaction, a deposit transaction. This is my account number. I'm depositing £300 and £300 deposit transaction successful. So let me go to my check account balance, account number. Boom, I have your account balance is £300. So let's check the balance and let's print account statement instead of the balance. And here we have it. This is the transaction ID, the deposits, and here is the amount. So our email is now working. But there's another thing we can do because um, even yes, we know we've used the mail function, the input mail function of .NET, but that still doesn't validate the email because it doesn't help to know if the email actually exists or if it doesn't exist. It doesn't help us to know if the domain, if the server can receive whether the domain actually accepts email or not. So, but while I was doing my research because I saw different ways of implementing email validation, you could actually write a custom algorithm to, validate your email, but it still won't give you the best. And I saw regex function of, validating email. That's a lot, and I didn't want to mess my mind with that. So another way to do it is one can also use the how do I put it now? The MX lookup. So make message exchange lookup. So it's also it requires a DNS lookup library in .NET, so we can download that package and make use of it. So it helps to look at domain name system and also the mail exchange to see that the domain can actually communicate, can accept email and send email. So once that package, the DNS client libraries, the package is installed, so we can reference it by saying using DNS client, and then we make use of it. Let me quickly. I really don't want to mess my mind with all of that, but let me just show us how uh, that works, kind of. So I think after after the namespace has been declared, like using um, DNS client, so one can just come here and say, okay, variable lookup, for instance, is a lookup is an MX lookup tool or function. Uh, so we say this is a new lookup client, I think. Yeah, I think we're correct. Then the variable results. So now we are now using the lookup that's was illustrated above. So we are saying lookup dot we want to query lookup dot query. So put this in bracket, and now what we'll do is the this one is to help us test just the domain. So probably we would have written our own um, code that extracts the domain from the email. So we can use like a substring to cut out the domain from the at part of the email. So every other text after the at part, for example, we use Jamie Fox at Yahoo. So after the at we have yahoo.com. So the yahoo.com is the domain. So we would have done the substring and extracted the domain, and now we are working on the domain to see if it can send or receive email communication. That's just what we are trying to look at here. So here we just enter email, which is our, let's say, domain. Sorry, because we would have gotten the substring, the domain from this part, and the other part, because we want to compare. So we say the query type dot mx. Don't forget I said it's uh, mail exchange, mx mail exchange. So after this is done, then what happens is we now return the results, but not just the results, dots. We are going to say answer dot mx records ms records dot any. So I'm going to explain what that means. Because this was why I was just reading up stuff to see what's the best way to validate email. So here, when we set up the lookup client, what it does is it takes in the domain that's and query it with the query type, all message and all mail exchange servers out there, like gmail.com, hotmail.com, Outlook rather, yahoo.com, whatever mail exchange server that we have out there. it queries this and see if it does exist. So if it does exist, so here we are now going to return that, okay, the answer you've gotten from here, from the MX record, if any, if it's, if any of these matches with the domain, if any of these servers here matches with the domain, so it returns it. I hope you get the points now. But even at that, this still doesn't guarantee that an email exists, because we can have an email. Yes, the domain is correct. The domain can receive, can communicate email message, but then the email does not exist. So even after doing this, the best way, the robust way is to send like an email confirmation to that email address and let the user confirm the email from their end. And then at the confirmation of their email, it also communicate back with the system, and then the system can verify that, oh, this email exists. So that's the best, that's the best and the complete method of doing that. I just said I should you know highlight this. And you can also, just like I said, you can write your remote. So you can write your own algorithm, like I said, to check for the correctness of the email. So don't forget, this mail address is just for syntactic correctness, not anything much. For the syntactic correctness, maybe there is dots, there is at, which we can or you can also write. So imagine, okay, we are dealing with a string email, for instance, and we get the string from the user, just like the method I wrote here, get user input string. So let's just say we are getting the raw string from the user. How do we go about it? To validate, to streamline the input to see that, okay, it's syntactically correct with how an email address should be. So one thing we want to check first is we want to know if that email address contains an um, character, an symbol. So if it does, then we want to check for the index, the last index of that. We also want to check for the index of it. I want to compare if the index and the last index is the same. This is just for us to be able to know if that string has more than one. Okay, let me explain okay. So here we have it. So let's say we are dealing with a string of email, like just a raw string. This is the email, and this is an example of it. So you can see variable first here. I'm saying email dot this, but even before here, I can add this to my if email dot contains at. Well, let me just put return. For instance, if email does not contain ads, so if there's no ads in it, then the email is not correct. So just take, for instance, that there's no hat in this email, just going to be example gmail.com. It doesn't make sense. So it's going to return false here. Then if it does return true, if it's like, if this actually contains a hat symbol, then we want to check for the first index, like the index of this hat. Then we also want to check for the last index of it. So once we do that, we want to see if the first is equal to the last. If the first index, if it is, what we are trying to do here is to ensure that we only have one at symbol in this email string. So if we check and we see that the index of and the last index of is not the same thing, then we know that it has more than one at symbol, and so we return false. But if the first and the last are the same, are equal, it means it has only one at symbol. So the next thing will come here. We can actually add all this, put all this here, in here. So instead of, I can just say, okay, let's just leave it at that so that it can be clear. But once you understand the concept, you can, manipulate the code to your own taste. So now I now know that, okay, we have one at symbol. Then I want to see, okay, the at symbol, where does it actually fall in the index of that email string? So is the last in the index of this at symbol, does it fall at the first index? Does it fall at the start of the string, which is going to be the 0 index? As you can see, I said less than 1. So less than 1 means 0. So, and the 0 is the first character of that string email, that email string. So if it falls on the first character, then we know it is wrong because at cannot be at the first, um, the email cannot start with the at character. And I want to see if the email does not end with the at character. So if none of this is true, then we know that, okay, we are still on the line. But if this is true, if the at character is either at the beginning or at the end of the email string, then we know that email is invalid. So we proceed. Now, since we've tested for all these conditions and we see that they are satisfied, we now want to extract the domain. This is what I was, speaking about, that extracting the domain from the email string. And to do that, we need to, extract the substring from the character after the at symbol, which is going to be the index of the last symbol plus 1. So it's starting at the character after the last symbol. So if you don't understand this, you can also do, this is just a shortened version of this. So we can say last plus 1. So we can use this. This is the substring, or we can use this, which is a shorter version of. Did I get it correctly? Supposed to be 3. Hmm, I get this. No. Okay, let me go back to the uh, substring. I think this is the one I'm sure of right now. This one. But while I was doing this, he made a suggestion. Okay, this is it. Suggestion he made. Use range operator. Oh, okay. 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 It is good to learn how to, shorten the code, but first and foremost, we need to understand how it works. So I'm just trying to also, learn this, but I'm used to using email.substring. And so now we've extracted the domain. And what we want to test is, does the domain contain a dot symbol, like a dot, a full stop symbol? And because, for example, this is the domain, gmail.com is the domain. So let's assume there's no dots here. So it's just going to be gmail.com. So we know that's invalid. That's why we tested for this to see that, okay, it contains this. And if it does, we want to see, okay, does the domain start with the dots? Is the dots here instead of the G? Or is it at the end here? If it is, then we know we have an invalid email. And then lastly, once that is done, we know our email is syntactically correct. Then we can now apply the DNS client library that I spoke about. So we can do that from this part. You understand? So that is just to show us, we're writing our own code to validate the email. So I hope you understand it. So let me know what you think in the comment section of this video. If you've learned something, or if there's any contribution, or if there's any criticism, it is all welcome. Don't forget, this is my journey to becoming a .NET professional, a professional .NET developer. And I want you to, follow along. Let's do this together. And please, you can share this video to anyone who is out there that would like to learn .NET and needs the support, need someone they can work with. I'm here, I'm available, and we can do this together so that it can be fun for us and not boring and all of that. So thank you for watching. See you in my next video. Bye.